Good afternoon and welcome to News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. I'm David Alabi, and here are stories making the headlines. Now we begin our bulletin with party politics in Nigeria. Ibrahim Shekarau, former governor of Kano State, northwest Nigeria, has dumped the People's Democratic Party, PDP. This is according to Sule media aide to the former governor. Sule, who did not give reasons for the decision, however, said that Malam Shekarau had already called for a stakeholders meeting to be held on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the PDP State Executive Committee was dissolved by the National Working Committee of their party on Friday in Abuja, the state's capital. The decision by the NWC to disregard the earlier court order irked the state leadership, supporters and all stakeholders of the party in the state. The state leadership on Monday rejected in totality the purported dissolution of the State Executive Committee by the NWC of the party. Now, Nigeria's opposition, People's Democratic Party, has set up an 85-member campaign council to ensure its success in the upcoming Osun State governorship elections. The president of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, who is also the chairman of the council, urged them to ensure the party emerges victorious in the upcoming polls, alleging that the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has lost the confidence of the people.
So it is also the issue of free and fair elections going to come to play in this country. Osun State gives us the opportunity again, the last election before general election. And it's also coming immediately after the visit of two world leaders to the country, and where they extracted a commitment from Mr. President that he will ensure there will be free and fair elections in this country. This is the first election that's going to come after that visit.
That was the president of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, speaking there. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission on Monday said it was working on secret balloting to curb vote buying in the September 22nd governorship election in Osun State. Resident Electoral Commissioner in Osun, Olusegun Agbaje, said this while making a presentation on INEC's preparations ahead of the elections at the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room Dialogue Session in Abuja.
Well, in the commission, we have decided that we are going to rearrange our cubicles in such a way that it will not be very easy to display your papers, your ballot papers.
Votes are becoming increasingly competitive, and these votes are beginning to have values. That is why people are buying them. If they are valueless, nobody will pay 3,000 or 4,000 for it. They are beginning to see the significance of votes.
The important thing would be to ensure that the legislation on electoral offences, which has been pending in the National Assembly, gets to pass. And
Away from Osun State elections, now President Muhammadu Buhari, for a third time as again, declined assent to the Electoral Act Bill of 2018. Speaking with State House correspondents yesterday, Senior Special Assistant to the President of National Assembly Matters, Ita Enang, said that the President, in a communique to the Senate and House of Representatives dated 30th of August, stated the reasons for his decision. According to him, the President again declined the assent because of some drafting issues that remained unaddressed. Quote, Mr. President is declining assent to the Electoral Amendment Bill due to some drafting issues that remain unaddressed following the prior revisions to the bill. The President had earlier declined assent to the bill twice because of the order of elections and a drafting error. Now, the schedule of activities and possible review of the cost of nomination fees are set to be top on the agenda as a meeting of the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress, which started on Monday, enters the second day today. The NWC, which started its meeting on some of these contentious issues on Monday, adjourned to reconvene after deliberating for close to 4 hours. Monday's meeting was chaired by the APC's national chairman, Adams Oshiomhole. Speculations arrived that the meeting was adjourned to enable some members of the NWC to attend a meeting of the committee for the Osun State governorship election. Earlier, a group of pro-Buhari supporters on Monday stormed the National Secretariat of the APC to drum up support for for the direct primary mode of choosing the party's candidate for the 2019 elections. Senator Godswill Akpabio says the recent defections in the All Progressives Congress APC was an attempt to frustrate the efforts of Muhammadu Buhari administration. Quote, "For me, I saw a situation where the ruling party was not only being distracted, but the movements were capable of bringing down, he said, on the special political program which aired on Monday. Several top members of the APC, including President of the Senate Bukola Saraki and the governors Benue, Kwara and Sokoto, defected from the party recently. All of them accused the APC of failing to keep its promises to the nation and attributed their defection to national interest. But Senator Akpabio faulted their motives, insisting they had nothing to do with national interest. And now to aviation matters. Former Nigerian Aviation Minister Chief Femi Fani-Kayode on Tuesday agreed finally to answer the summons police issued him to appear before it at its headquarters. Disclosing this on his Facebook handle, the frontline critic of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration prayed God to be with him as he sojourns to the place. "The Lord is with me," he said. Recall that Femi Fani-Kayode had prayed a court to quash and declare as illegal a summons police issued him to appear at its headquarters to be interrogated over allegations bordering on conspiracy, criminal defamation, inciting publication, injurious falsehood, and conduct likely to cause a breach of peace. World over, from news coverage of conflict zones to reporting from authoritarian regimes, journalists continue to be prime targets of a bigger problem, the challenge of accessing information and divulging said information. If this continues, journalists may just become, quote, endangered species. In this report, our correspondent Mary Chinda takes a look at what is fast becoming worrisome in this day and age.
Monday's sentencing of two Reuters reporters in Nyama to 7 years in prison over what the government there termed illegal possession of official documents has sent serious concerns amongst international observers about the increasing threat to press freedom around the world.
So these journalists, what has happened to them may not have been different, but it's a bit of a surprise, even for the low standards that have been set, that journalists could have been could be the target of this kind of conduct, especially international journalists, by one of the respected bodies, Reuters. So it's quite shocking that for doing their job, and it appears as if, according to the stories, they may not have been verified, but it appears as if they were set up.
Not surprisingly, the African continent has had its own fair share of intimidation of the press and a continuous attempt to gag journalists. A case in point is the arrest of 5 journalists by the military in Ethiopia while gathering information on the state of emergency in March this year. In Nigeria, journalists continue to suffer intimidation and repression. Quite recent examples are the arrest and extrajudicial incarceration of James Abiri, an independent journalist, and the detention of Premium Times reporter Samuel Ogundepe for allegedly having access to classified information. Why has the press continued to suffer unrelenting attacks?
The press is usually seen as by those who don't want to follow due process, don't want to do the right thing, as their enemies, and that's one of the dangers of being a press person. People in the press now are being hounded, they are being harassed, and they are not being treated the way they ought to be treated. Their fundamental rights are being flouted.
Is there any justification whatsoever for the attempts to gag the media around the world?
From onset, there has been this anger towards press freedom. There has been this animosity towards freedom of the press, and that has dovetailed into so many things. There are so many instances of gagging the press, detaining journalists for days, for months.
As much as the press is expected to exercise its freedom with a sense of responsibility, it is believed that the press, as the fourth estate of the realm, serves as both the conscience of the society and a check on the excesses of the other realms of the estate. A world without a free press may be an invitation to chaos and unbridled tyranny. I am Mary Chinda, Plus TV Africa.
The rest of the news at this hour continues in just a moment. Do stay with us. Glad to have you back. You're still watching News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Now, news just reaching us indicates that about 100 people have been injured this morning following a collision between two passenger trains in the Illof extension in Selby, south of Johannesburg. Paramedics and other emergency services arrived on the scene and the victims were assessed and found to have sustained minor to moderate injuries and transferred to nearby hospitals for further treatment. The details surrounding the incident is yet unknown, but local authorities were on the scene for further investigations. We'll bring you more details in our subsequent bulletin. And in Uganda, legislator Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, has narrated a horrific tale of torture, merciless beating and inhumane treatment that he experienced in the hands of state operatives over the past 3 weeks. Part of the statement that the legislature posted on his Facebook page read, quote, "They beat me, punched me and kicked me with their boots. No part of my body was spared. They hit my eyes, mouth and nose. They hit my elbow and my knees. Those guys are heartless," end of quote. Bobi Wine was arrested on August 13th after he campaigned for an independent candidate in a by-election in the West Nile town of Arua and has since been charged with treason after state argues that a section of his supporters stoned the convoy of President Yoweri Museveni. Jean-Pierre Bemba will not be a candidate in the December 23rd presidential poll in the Democratic Republic of Congo after the country's highest court validated the rejection of his candidacy by the Electoral Commission. The judgment by the Constitutional Court, which was broadcast on national television, said that the Election Commission had rightly invalidated Bemba's candidacy last month, finding that witness tampering is a form of corruption as stipulated in the electoral law. Mr. Bemba, a popular former vice president, suggested as one of the leading candidates to replace outgoing President Joseph Kabila, has a pending witness tampering conviction at the International Criminal Court. When we return, we'll bring you updates from the foreign scene. Don't go anywhere. And on the foreign scene, U.S. President Donald Trump has accused Attorney General Jeff Sessions of damaging the midterm re-election chances of two Republican members of Congress by prosecuting them. Mr. Trump wrote on Twitter that Justice Department's decision to file charges put, quote, easy wins now in doubt, end of quote. Both men are key President Trump's supporters. One is accused of insider trading and the other of campaign violations. Mr. Trump has often clashed with Mr. Sessions over the Russia inquiry. Following the Attorney General's recusal, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appointed former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel to lead the inquiry. Mr. Trump has repeatedly called it, quote, a witch hunt. Powerful typhoon JB lashed western Japan Tuesday, bringing torrential rains and strong winds as more than 600 flights and hundreds of train services were cancelled. According to the meteorological agency, the season's 21st typhoon made landfall around the southern part of Tokushima Prefecture, around 600 kilometers southwest of Tokyo. The storm was traveling north-northeast at 55 kilometers per hour with maximum sustained winds of 162 kph and gusts of 260 kilometers per hour, the agency said. Weather authorities were warning of floods and strong winds and torrential rains for large parts of the country. In early July, torrential rains battered western Japan, triggering landslides and floods that left 226 people dead and 10 missing, the country's deadliest weather-related disaster in more than 3 decades. And the UN Climate Change Conference convened in Bangkok on Tuesday amid calls for greater progress and increased responsibility from developed countries. More than 2,000 delegates from 196 countries joined the 6-day talks at the UN compound in Bangkok, focused on implementing guidelines of the Paris Agreement signed in 2016. The Paris Agreement committed 195 countries to keeping rising global temperatures well below 2 degrees Celsius and as close to 1.5 degrees as possible within this century. The Bangkok session is deemed a, quote, final leg for the agreed basis for negotiations at the COP24 conference, the 24th conference of the parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, to be held in Katowice, Poland in December. It's now time to take a flip to the world of business with Edith Young.
Welcome to Business News on Plus TV Africa. I am Edidiong Iwang. Now, during the opening ceremony of the 2018 Beijing Summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, President of the Republic of China, Xi Jinping, said they will be dispersing $60 billion to finance infrastructure-related projects in Africa. Among the earmarked financing fund from China includes a $15 billion grant, interest-free loans and concessional loans, $20 billion of credit line, $10 billion special fund for development, and $5 billion a special fund for financing imports from Africa. The president said the funds being invested in Africa are meant to build infrastructure and not vanity projects. While still on China's investment in Africa, China National Petroleum Corporation says that it will secure the financing required for the execution of the 40-inch by 614-kilometer Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano pipeline project, expected to cost about $2.8 billion. The revelation was made during a high-level meeting between the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and the CNP's management held on the sidelines of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit in Beijing, China. While 85% of the money is expected to be provided by the financiers, which include Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Bank of China Infrastructure, Bank of China with Sinosure, China's Exports Credit Agency providing insurance cover, the remaining 15% will be provided by the contractors, which include Allserve Oando Consortium and, as well as Brentex China Petroleum Pipeline Bureau Consortium. While 6 months in office, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa now suffers a recession, as the South African economy contracted an annualized 0.7% in the second quarter from the previous quarter. Now that compares with a decline of 2.6% in the first quarter and the first recession since 2009. Also, the rand fell 2.3% to 15.2094 per dollar by 11:45 a.m. in Johannesburg on Tuesday. Well, that is on business news, but still to come is our roundup on entertainment and sport. Don't go away.
And in entertainment, Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka celebrates Onyeka Ngelue for his Africa Movie Academy Award nomination by hosting him, his cast and crew at his office in Lagos. Ngelue is an author and was nominated for the Best Feature Film by a director. Soyinka described it as a magnificent work of art. The movie is titled Agwe Etiti Obi, based on the author's work titled Island of Happiness, and it tells the tale of the residents in Imo State and focuses on their deficiency in the midst of affluence, their deprivation in the midst of abundance, and their desperate quest for success and a sense of belonging. Reality star Kim Kardashian West shuts down the rumor of her alleged affair with American rapper Drake. A Twitter user shared a convincing thread about a deep secret between Drake and Kim, which they are hiding from her husband, Kanye West. The thread included lyrics from Drake's Scorpion album, which the Twitter user alleged referred to his relationship with Kim. The lyrics include Kiki, Do You Love Me, which is Kim's nickname, but the reality star has taken to her Instagram page to shut down the rumor with the caption, Never happened, end of story. And that's it on entertainment. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo, the best in sports, coming right after this.
Hello and welcome to Sports Update on Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko. The Golden Eaglets suffered a 3-2 defeat against Burkina Faso in their opening Group B match at the Zonal Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations qualifier in Niger on Monday. Only the overall winners of the zonal qualifiers will progress to the main tournament in Tanzania next year. In order to give themselves a chance of advancing to the semi-final, the Eaglets must win their last 2 games against Cote d'Ivoire and Benin Republic. The next game is on Thursday against Cote d'Ivoire. And that's it on Sport Update on Plus TV Africa. For the very best of sports, do log on to our website, plustvafrica.com/sports. I am Udoka Njoko.
And Sports wraps our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates and broadcasts, please follow us at Plus TV Africa. That's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines across the African continent and the rest of the world. To join us again, I'm David Alabi, and many thanks for watching.